Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the PRCA Matchmaker New Business Development Series. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a complete formula for successful new business operations. So, who am I? I'm a business development bod, and I'm a co-founder of The Advertist, which is an agency new business platform. And we run a huge database of corporate marketing and C-suite contacts, and then we map it against news, research, people moves, and M&A activity. I'm also the host of the wildly successful new business podcast Fuel, where we originally set out to decode the hidden growth techniques of PR, advertising, and marketing agency leaders. And during the course of producing the podcast, I happened on this piece of research that ties all the elements we've covered in the first 2 workshops. The research is a survey of 675 creative marketing budget holders, and it's an annual survey conducted on behalf of the DBA, the Design Business Association, called What Clients Think. And it's actually quite extraordinary. And before we go into the details of the research and how this impacts on this workshop, all about the non-verbal skills of new business, let's just recap the conclusions from the first 2 workshops. In workshop 1, which I call digging ditches, the takeaways were balance. We learned how it's important to have a good grasp of the business and the creative side of your agency and being proactive. Consistency matters. Keeping a regular schedule of new business activities, emails, phone work, social media, meetings, Zoom calls and conferences is critical. Secondly, become an expert in their business. We learned that knowing what you're talking about is critical. Clients are incredibly risk averse, so the old days of taking a chance on something different are few and far between. Thirdly, dig those ditches. Even when times are tough, keep at it. Keep digging ditches, and we'll revisit this phrase in a short while. Schedule regular activity. Stay in new business shape and your muscle memory will kick in just when you need it most. A body in motion stays in motion, and a body at rest stays at rest, which is Sir Isaac Newton's first law of motion. Fourthly, new business is your agency's direction. Your new business prospecting needs to be driven by a vision of where your agency is going to be in 2 or 3 years' time. And we'll learn in a minute the time from the first contact to the pitch can be up to 1.5 years, and you don't want to be caught up in the weeds servicing clients that are going to hold your progress back. And lastly, it's a team sport. Everyone in the company needs to be thinking about possible clients and helping the new business team unlock opportunities. Use their contacts in person and on social media. And above all, nothing happens in a company until somebody sells something. In workshop 2, The Road to Somewhere, we put a tip on our new business pencil. We looked at some of the practical hands-on techniques that offer the highest reward for the lowest risk. We looked at referrals, how business development and new business are different sides of the same coin and how they can work together. We looked at developing one single new business idea and how it can take on a life of its own without needing much effort. We looked at how you can develop a new business theme that doesn't require reinvention, how that one single great idea can exist in emails, in workshops, on social media, and even on Christmas cards. And we looked at how to identify the right client for your agency using this, the Meikle Matrix. It's a very simple matrix and it's great for creating an ideal customer profile. You can divide your new business prospects into one of 4 buckets: high and low degrees of control over high and low degrees of responsibility. And your aim is to have that top right. Your aim is to have maximum control and lots of responsibility with exactly the right types of clients doing the right type of work. So having done all this hard work of regular activity, targeting the right prospects with finely tuned creative campaigns based on your expertise that match the client's needs, it'd be a tragedy to have all this effort go to waste because the spark just wasn't there. Which brings me on to the research. The What Clients Want research. Now, I'm going to make it available to you all after this meeting because it is fascinating and it was really enlightening, and it's driven a lot of kind of agency conversations that I've had. But here's the one of the big startling findings was that 95% of clients, these are budget holders, acknowledged that the role of creativity played in moving a brand forwards, but yet only a third of them are prepared to invest in next level work. The single most compelling reason to meet with a new agency was because they understood the strategic issues they face. It takes, as we said, 18 months to advance a client from first meeting to first brief. So developing that relationship over those months is absolutely critical. And it seems that clients want nothing and everything. They want to be impressed, but only if you understand and address their challenges. And if you overlay this against the IPA's bellwether findings, although marketing budgets are increasing, each area of spend is actually decreasing. So more things, cheaper. And this is because they don't trust the process. So they do everything in the hope that one or two of those things might pay off. And as we know it, it's called the scattergun approach. And it's not good for any agency to know that you're working harder for small budgets. Now, one way to improve your odds of not only winning the work, but winning higher paid work is by convincing the client that you're experts and they can trust you, which brings us to Gravitas. The first element of the psychological aspect of new business is gravitas. According to the Roman emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius, the cultivation of gravitas involves acting with sincerity and dignity by being temperate in manner and speech, as well as by carrying oneself with authority. In my podcast with actor and business coach Catherine Allison, we discussed the fact that the primary reason that companies employ her is to help their teams exude gravitas and confidence. Gravitas comes with a knowledge of a topic and an authoritative way of communicating it. Think of Neil deGrasse Tyson. He could literally rock up anywhere and talk about astrophysics and be the most knowledgeable person in the room. But the thing that makes him memorable is his engaging and down-to-earth way of dealing with a pretty complex subject. But that's because he's been an astrophysicist for over 40 years and he's got decades of presenting and TV experience. He's very confident because he knows his subject, and that even allows him to get away with those crazy shirts. And that's the difference between good new business pitch and a great new business pitch: confidence and gravitas. The only way to present with gravitas is to rehearse what you're doing and saying about a subject that you're familiar with. And a final note, professional qualifications and memberships also add gravitas, such as a PRCA membership. Rehearsing gives you the ability to cope with unexpected things, to freestyle, to go a la carte, because you've run the lines before, you know where the stops and starts are, and you've got pre-prepared lines ready. And gravitas also translates online. And this opens up an important element of the art of presenting via Zoom or Teams or Google Meet. It's a relatively new concept for us all to deal with. And I remember when COVID first came on the scene in early 2020, I was launching our podcast and I went from this to this. Largely because Donna, my wife and business partner and co-producer of the show, said if I was going to put our office on camera, it needed to look more like a studio. So with relatively little expense, probably no more than about £400, we got some lights, wall coverings, a decent mic and camera, and we're off. Curating your frame, it's actually a thing. You'll notice that expert influencers and presenters have carefully curated camera frames. This space around us, obviously you don't want to look like you're presenting the news or a TV game show, but adding in some points of interest to give a sense of depth, maybe a plant in the corner or a backlight to show off a wall, it's a good thing. And if nothing else, it shows you care about what people see. And you can make the space an extension of your personality. If you like books or reading, put up some shelves with some of your favourites on them. And if you like music, have an instrument peeking into the frame. Or if you're an artist like new business development expert Adam Graham, have some of your work as a background. And I guess the thing is, we didn't really expect video meetings to be as commonplace as they are now. And having a curated frame really is worth doing because it adds so much authenticity to your pitch or your presentation. And before we leave online meetings, I just wanted to say a quick word about eye contact. Eye contact is directly proportional to gravitas and authority. Have you ever tried telling your kids off when you're not looking directly at them? Eye contact is critical. So set your camera up so you're looking in the general vicinity of their eyes. It takes a bit of practice, but I've found it's also useful to turn off your own in-screen video feed, and also to minimize the whole zoom window so that you can see other windows on your screen while you're talking. Lean forward, and most of all, do everything you can to make sure that you're looking directly into the screen. It helps if you can pull back slightly so that your eyes can drift if you need to read something else on the screen. And also, gestures add 60% to your spoken message, so don't be afraid to use your hands. Just not jazz hands. Dale Carnegie. Great speakers aren't born, they're trained. Nerves is natural. Glossophobia. Glossophobia is the fear of public speaking, and just over 75% of the population suffer from it. Symptoms are shallow breathing, sweats, rashes. Firstly, acknowledge that you're nervous. All nerves can be minimized by rehearsing. And trust me on this, because I actually had to do it yesterday, you can actually trick your brain into calming down by doing two things. Firstly, control your breathing. Breathe not from your chest, but with your diaphragm. Breathe out and then in a bit more, almost like when you're inhaling a cigarette, if you ever smoked. But hold it, then breathe out, and repeat that 2 or 3 times, and say out loud that the reason you're feeling like this is because you're excited. And it does work. You literally say, I am excited about this, and it changes. For something in your brain changes. And it's a great place to see unpolished people pitching is on TV shows like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, and it's valuable to watch what they do and learn from them. You can see if they really know their stuff, because the dragons and sharks often try to interrupt them and throw them off their flow. A good presenter will acknowledge the interruption with a brief response, earmark it, and circle back to it later. A guest on the Fuel podcast, Present Yourself, was Julie Thompson-Dredge of Frame PR. She works with the Made in Britain campaign and therefore works with around 2,000 manufacturers and lots of female founders. And the one big takeaway she found with British leaders is that they don't like talking about themselves. They think it's a vanity. Their American counterparts, on the other hand, love talking about themselves, and they're really good at selling their company online and social media, doing webinars, speaking engagements, and even TikTok videos. It becomes second nature. And some people like to sort of class this as being braggadocious, but it does work. You have to just keep talking about your business, how successful you're doing, all that kind of stuff, and you get into a rhythm of doing it. And believe it or not, I'm not actually really very comfortable talking to large crowds of people, but I found if you do it often enough and do it regularly enough, you can become just accustomed to it, and not used to it, but accustomed to it. And it helps you get over the nerves a bit. So her advice was,
promote yourself, whether you're using a PR agency or you're doing it yourself, start talking, use social media or PR, especially use social media as a communication platform, like rather than a broadcast platform. It's not just, I did this, it's, connect with people, chat, like, comment. But yeah, start telling your story in social media and in the media. Look at what stories you've got that you might just be sitting on within your company or within yourself that you can just get out there. Don't be shy. It isn't cringe to sell yourself,
But above all else, you're going to have faith. Sales goes hand in hand with marketing, and marketing is an integral part of the package. You can't have one without the other. The reason being that marketing lays the groundwork for sales. I did a podcast that I did in June was with BD expert Brad Smith, and we discussed faith, partly because he's really a faith-driven person, and also because faith, in the more general definition of the word, is what we all need to have. And it all started off with that video by Sir Anthony Hopkins. I don't know whether you watched it or whether you've seen it before, but I played it at the last workshop, and in truth, it's been one of the most popular bits of content I've ever shared. I'll make it available for everyone after this, but it tells a story of an ancient town threatened by drought with no rain for 2 years, and the town's leader told everyone to start digging ditches. Obviously, they questioned his logic, but once they began digging the ditches, they started to believe that it would rain, and when it did rain, they were ready for it. And this is how we need to think of new business. We're constantly digging ditches, making sure that we're in the right mindset. And that's extraordinarily similar to the definition of faith. Faith refers to a more profound trust or confidence in something or someone, typically without requiring empirical evidence. Brad told me this.
When the tough times are there, people don't want more burden or more loaded upon them. They want you to lift the load and to lighten the load. Of course, when you're in the middle of a drought, digging a ditch to catch water when it does fall is the very thing that's going to help you later down the line. And in new business, there's something to be said for, and I've read this a lot of times, and so I can only assume it either isn't followed or everybody says it, but not everybody does it. Everyone talks about the best opportunity for sales and marketing is when the market's a struggle and everybody stops, you just keep on going. Using your analogy earlier on, or my Dora quote, just keep swimming, right?
Right.
I can honestly tell you, hand on heart, that no matter what is going on in the world, Russian-Ukrainian war, world economic downturn, COVID 1, 2, or 3, or any other variant that may come along, whilst the style of messaging and marketing and channel may have to change, what should never change is your pulling of the marketing levers. If you're not talking about what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and who you can help, weirdly, nobody else does it for you. Magic doesn't happen when you don't get up on the stage and talk to people about the work that you can perform.
In doing this, the performative side of new business, you're demonstrating to potential clients you can do the thing you say you're going to do, because not every client is going to say yes at the first meeting. As research tells us, it takes about 18 months from initial conversation to brief, and that's a lot of time to spend showing them that you can do what you say. As Brad told me on the podcast, he had a client that after 2 years of nurturing said, I don't know what to call it, but in dealing with you, I've got a really good sense that you actually genuinely try to do everything you say you will. I have such conviction and belief in your belief, and that's faith, which is closely related to hope. Hope is an optimistic state of mind based on the belief that outcomes will be favourable, even if the current circumstances are challenging. And this guy, Barack Obama, was a great proponent of that. You hear it a lot from politicians, mainly on the left, politicians like Barack here.
Hope is not blind optimism. Hope is not ignoring problems. Hope is believing in the face of difficulty that we can overcome and get a better world. Hope is looking squarely at our challenges and our shortcomings and saying, despite that, I think through effort and will and community, we can make things better.
And more recently, we had Kamala Harris, even last night, talking about hope. And hope is used all the time to motivate. Recently, Sir Keir Starmer said the sunlight of hope was shining once again in a country with an opportunity after 14 years to get its future back. We cannot underestimate the power of hope in our new business activity. Being busy, digging ditches drives hope, faith, and belief in the work that you do. And let's hear again from Adam Graham.
There's a lot to be taken of that, but the positivity is so important. I think I've always been that way inclined. I've always been a glass half full kind of person. But you will tend to notice if you speak to anybody that the human brain has a tendency to focus on negativity about 3 or 4 times more strongly than positive things, right? So if your train is delayed and running late, well, the trains are a nightmare. You're going to complain about that. But it's not like every day when that train arrives on time, you're shouting about it, going, yes, the train was here, guys. We did it. Because 90% of the time, it's here. You won't. You will just moan about the bad times. And I think we do that in new business. And I think sometimes we do that without the use of data and maybe numbers and that bias involved, and actually go, you know what, things are sometimes better than we think they are. And we just need to sort of always believe, as he was saying, and move forward, and and have that mindset that there is no losing, there is no failure, there's just learning.
So now I'm going to cover how we stitch all of the main topics from the previous workshops into one coherent process. And it's something that I call, and people generally in my side of business call, a sales sequence. So what is a sales sequence? The simplest way to describe it is by looking at an Olympic sprinter. A 100-meter sprint is a running sequence. It starts with training and building muscle memory, repetition and frequency, warming those muscles up. Then comes the moment, mental focus, building gravitas, maybe some mind games. Then into the blocks, breathing just right, building oxygen levels and preparing to get clear as soon as you hear the starting gun. Then bam, you're off, sprinting, focused. Everything you're doing is designed to get you to the finish line as efficiently and as fast as possible. Your rhythm, your breathing and your vision, all working in perfect harmony, just like you trained. That's a running sequence. So what's a sales sequence and how does it work? A sales sequence is a planned series of steps that you take to reach out to potential customers. It involves multiple interactions, each one designed to increase their interest and trust, step by step. It escalates the intensity of the selling process as we get further down the track. So let's apply this to a general PR agency new business sequence. Firstly, nothing happens until somebody sells something. Familiarization. Get used to talking about the proposition, develop materials to support the agency's outreach. This is going to enable you to understand the details that give you gravitas when you do speak to a client. You're familiar with the offering, you know the market, you understand the pressure points, and you can hold your own in an initial conversation. Prospect data, number 2. You're going to need to identify those customers using a data source for contact information and for sector intelligence. Plug. I personally recommend the Advertist, as do hundreds of other successful new business people, but there are other lower quality, higher priced options available if you need them. But the data you use needs to be manageable in quantity. Setting off 1,000 different hairs running is only going to mean you miss opportunities and you can't personalize those messages. Thirdly, a roadmap. Identify those clients that are going to take you where the agency wants to be in 3 to 4 years' time. The average new business prospect, as we keep learning from first contact to pitch, is around 18 months. The average account lifetime is 2 years, so you'll be using work from this account to get your future clients. Number 4, regularity. Set a regular time for this, either in your day or your week, but if you keep digging those ditches, rain will come. And fifthly, get everyone involved and make it a company-wide team sport. Stage 2. The road to somewhere, we covered in the last workshop. Referrals. Use your existing clients to drive new client acquisition. Referrals, recommendations and testimonials all help add credibility to your efforts. Second, single idea. Design your new business campaign around one single idea or proposition. Make it powerful and memorable. Something like, oh, you're the front page takeover agency, right? Something that's going to stick in their mind. Number 3, make it repeatable so it can be distributed across multiple platforms, email, social media, webinars, etc. And number 4, vet your prospects, use that matrix and be courageous wherever you can. Find clients that are going to push you to do great work. And 5th, the new business development strategy must align with the corporate strategy, which matches the type of work you want to do and the profit targets of your company. And finally, the hidden elements. Build gravitas and credibility into your email, conversations and social media. Know your subject. It's all part of the familiarization from part 1 of the sequence. If you understand your topic in conversation, you'll be demonstrating gravitas and credibility. They really know what they're talking about is a wonderful testimonial. Rehearse and rehearse again. Be able to go off script and then bring it back to the script. Take a detour every now and then. It allows you to stop the presentation, address a comment, remark on the quality of the catering, how great someone's shoes are or whatever, and then step back in line and off you go again. And third, inspire faith and hope. Scaring prospects into buying gets old if that's all you do. My wife's grandma had a phrase that you get more with sugar than you do with vinegar, and it's true. When people, clients and prospects are happy, they're more receptive to your fabulous ideas. Now, I've simplified this into 3 phrases because it's really not that hard. Any more than sprinting isn't that hard. It's just running in a straight line really fast, but it's how you do it and how often you do it that makes you good at it. Big sales software companies and sometimes even new business agencies, they like to make the sales process look complicated with over complex routines. And there is a place for those sales platforms, but not often in a communications agency new business department. It's all about knowing your topic, having the confidence to talk about it to the right people at the right time in a simple, relevant and memorable manner that they understand. And most of all, doing it regularly. Everything else is gravy. So, thanks very much. We can take questions, chat, or you can bail early and claim back some time in your lives. But I'm just going to leave you with this. The Advertist has a 25% discount to the service, and you can have as many colleagues as you want using it for one single simple price, which works out to be around £1,200 for the year for a PR agency. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand it back to Debbie and we'll take any questions.